All right, so we're continuing our Chazzarah and u'LeMaaseh Kuf Gimel Seif Hey on the subject of Noisein Tam Gam. So now in Seif Hey we have the halacha that we've been referencing throughout the entire time, which is the most practical application of Noisein Tam Gam, which we had today in our discussion, namely the 24 hours. So we should note, as it relates to okay, before we get to Zion, we'll make that note. Okay, Kol Kadera, any pot, she'ena bas yoma, that is not of a day old. And I couldn't find any better translation for bas yoma. Daughter of a day? How would you translate? Yeah. In the same way, bar mitzvah is a son of a mitzvah. What does son of a mitzvah mean? It means you're now a person obligated of a mitzvah. So bas yoma, daughter of a day, means you're a thing that's now of a day, right? Okay, so any vessel that isn't of a day old, since its last use, chashiva taima liv gam. It's not a day old, it's not within the day, meaning it's already over a day old. Then the flavor that's left behind is of a negative interaction with the food that's now going to be touching. And therefore, it doesn't prohibit the food that will now be cooked in it. Now, when it calls bas yoma, how long is it called bas yoma? It's still within the day of usage. Calls man. So long as it's within 24 hours since the prohibited food was cooked into it, then it's still within the day and it gives off a positive flavor. As we're going to see, this is actually subject to a dispute. I think we may have spoken about it once before, I don't remember, but it's subject to a dispute. There is a view which says it's 24 hours, and there's a view that says next morning. That overnight has this capacity to make things go putrid. But here the Shulchan Aruch is ruling with the more stringent view that it takes 24 hours before it goes putrid, before it goes negative. Now, once it's already passed 24 hours since its last use, not since its last use, but since the last time a prohibited thing was cooked in it, it's no longer considered of a day, it's already of a day plus. And therefore, if something was cooked in it, when it's over a day old, the new food that is now cooked is permitted.
Wait, it's not any food, it's only a negative food?
No. The flavor is considered negative.
Flavor of the pot.
But it's any food.
The next food will be...
Negative.
The next food will have received a negative flavor from the old food. Yes, I didn't word that correctly, thank you. The next food is not negative. No, the next food is great. Yeah. But the little bit of flavor it receives from the pot is going to be a negative one because it's over 24 hours old. It's now a flavor, the flavor that's being emitted from the pot, the non-kosher flavor being emitted from the pot is a negative one. Okay. Vahu, and this is on condition that shetiyu medachas, that the pot has been cleaned out, shelo shuman alpana, that it shouldn't have any residue, any grease on its surface. If it does, as we spoke about today in our discussion in past halachas, that if there's any residue, then the halacha of Noisein Tam Gam doesn't apply, because Noisein Tam Gam only applies to tam, not to mamashis. Okay. Shim layadicha, if you didn't clean it out, also it's forbidden, even though it's over 24 hours old, because there's actual substance there. That substance doesn't have the leniency of livgam. There's a lot of bolts in there. What's going on?
There's one. There's one bolt that's not in
it's
place.
Just all the way in the corner, and I have big hands.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, good.
I mean, it's a lot more stable. Sorry, I don't mean to. It's just my ADHD kicks in, like to fix things.
So varehi kechaticha iser, and therefore the residue is to be treated like an actual piece of non-kosher food. Good evening. Shaloi nifgama, that hasn't been turned to completely that hasn't been turned to complete inability. What's the word? Inedibility.
Unedible, not inedibility. I don't think that's.
No, it's turned to being.
It becomes unedible.
Becomes unedible.
Inedible. I don't think you say unedible.
Inedible.
Inedible.
Inedibility, not a word? Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It should be.
The yesh matirin, there are those who actually permit, even if you cooked in the pot before it was cleaned out. Because they're of the view that residue doesn't count as a piece of meat. We said yesterday that a piece of meat, in order to be considered livgam, it's 24 hours not enough. It has to be completely rotten and completely inedible. Right? Only flavor can be treated, could be treated as a little bit a negative flavor, right? If it's the actual substance, it has to be completely inedible. Remember we spoke about that yesterday, yeah? If it's a piece of meat, that has to be completely inedible. If it's just the flavor, then as long as it's a little bit negative. So in the case of a pot left over, if it's completely clean, no substance, it's only flavor. After 24 hours, the flavor's already a little bit no good, it's fine. But if you have residue, then that residue, according to opinion A, is treated like the actual piece of non-kosher meat, which would require complete inedibility, not just 24 hours later. View number 2 says, nah, residue doesn't count as that. And 24 hours later, residue also is treated as flavor, which could be which would not be. It's treated like flavor, which is no good after 24 hours. Okay, that's a lenient view, but we don't rule that way, as the Ramah says. If there's 60 times the ratio to that which is to the residue step behind, everybody will agree it's permissible. Because whatever flavor is in the pot is negative, and this is the custom, which means to require 60 times the amount. So let's just, sorry?
We're talking about the residue.
If it's residue, yes, if it's residue.
Because the residue is not recognizable, right?
At this point, it's not recognizable.
Would
correct.
it be a piece of meat?
Then you would have to extract the piece of meat before you use the 60 ratio, correct? Now, moreover, as our trusted coach here points out, first of all, obviously, this is only b'diavad. One should not cook into the first instance in a pot that's not b'diavad. Obviously, it's only b'diavad. And that's number one. Number two, in most cases, the content of your pot will be much more than 60 times the residue. Unless you're literally cooking in dirty pots. But if you're cooking in semi-clean pots, even if there's a little bit of residue at the end, your next soup is going to be 60 times the ratio of that residue. Right? So if it's 24 hours later, you have 60 to the ratio of the residue, plus the flavor in the pot is negative because it's 24 hours old. Okay. Okay, there are those who are stringent about water. The Ramah, we looked about this in Tzaddik, where the Shach said it's only a chumrah, who say that water cooked, right? You always count. Sorry, there are those that say that water after 24 hours will absorb the flavor, not in a negative fashion, because it's only the 24-hour flavor that's ruining your fresh flavor. But water doesn't have that ability to get ruined by that 24-hour flavor that's old. But the Shach says anyways, just we noticed in Tzaddik, the Shach says it's just a chumrah and not to so much worry about it. But the Ramah did say not to do that. Okay, now. Of course, 24 hours begins from when, we also spoke about this once in a previous simon, 24 hours begin when the pot stops to absorb the non-kosher flavor, which means when the pot cools down to such a degree that it's lukewarm. Because until such time, it's still absorbing flavor. So you turn the flame off, the 24-hour count doesn't start now. It starts when the non-kosher, or the meat going to milk, has come down to room temperature.
Or at least cooler than Yetzelet's by.
Well, cooler than Yetzelet's is even lower than lukewarm. I'm saying even lukewarm is enough.
Room temperature is way less.
It's room temperature.
But now even more.
Room temperature. You're right. You're right. We looked about this then. It actually has to be lower than Yetzelet's by.
Right.
It has to go even lower. It has to go down to room temperature, which is even lower. Yes, correct. I'm sorry. Yes, you are correct.
But nowadays we're like it's more strict in the sense that.
Say again?
Now we're like more strict. 'Cause I used something yesterday. I don't think it was what time I used it yesterday. I touched it any time yesterday.
No, you can figure it out. Was it breakfast? Was it lunch? Was it dinner? Right? And number two is obviously if you empty the pot out, then the count starts from then.
Right then, right.
Even if it was boiling hot when you dumped it out.
Right.
Okay. If you're in doubt, if 24 hours passed, be stringent. In most cases of doubt, we're going to be stringent. If you have two pots, you're not sure which one's ben yom, which one's not, and you use one of them, we are stringent. However, if the doubt is such that in between the doubt, then a night elapsed. So you have two pots. One pot you used last night for dinner. Now it's breakfast in the morning. So it's less than 24 hours, but I'm not sure which pot it is. In that case, I could be lenient.
But didn't we say originally that we can always assume that a utensil is...
In this case, I know one of them is. You do generally assume that utensils haven't been used in the last 24 hours.
Right.
Generally speaking. But in this case, I know I used one of these two pots for dinner last night.
But the question is, which one did you use?
I don't know which one. So, and then I cooked in one of them dairy. But I'm not sure if the one I cooked in dairy is the one I used last night or a different one. But I know one of these two I used last night for dinner. So even though it's within 24 hours, and usually I would be stringent in a case of doubt, but over here I could be lenient. Why? Because two stringencies make a positive. How so? Because even the fact that I'm waiting 24 hours rather than waiting overnight is a stringency, because the other view says I could wait overnight. Plus a doubt, and maybe it's not even the one. And therefore I can be lenient. Because I'm combining the two things together. Okay. After that, if you're not sure if the pot was clean at the time of cooking, it's over 24 hours, but you're not sure if it was completely clean, you go lenient because we just assume that most dishes are clean, and even if it wasn't clean perfectly, you have 60 to the ratio if it's tiny amount anyway. Okay. Vav. Clear? Yesh Mishaim, there are those that say, and we rule this way, this was a spice element. We spoke about this with respect to the onions. If you put pepper, spices into the pot, into a pot that had negative flavor more than 24 hours ago, because the new dish is now very spicy, hakol aser, everything is forbidden.
Because it's sharp.
Because the sharpness reinvigorates the flavor to make it positive. We had it with respect to a knife and an onion, which certainly sharpness plus pressure of the knife will certainly reinvigorate. But here he's saying even sharpness itself without the knife will reinvigorate the flavor, make it positive. This is indeed the halacha. If at the time of cooking it was sharp, let's say the pot is over 24 hours old, right? And then you cook food, and only after you cooked it did you add the extra spice. And it's not going to reinvigorate.
Because you didn't cook it, you didn't add the spice
cook
into
it
the
with,
pot.
Because you didn't add this. No, maybe in the pot, but not when it was cooking.
That was hot, you mean?
Yes, exactly. So it's heat plus spice. Yeah.
But if it's in a kli sheni, then for sure there's no issue. Like if you take
Probably
it
not, yeah.
and you put it in a plate and then you add hot sauce
And
to it.
that plate wasn't kosher 24 hours ago. Now you're in cliche anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey. Okay, and also this sharp only means if the thing is really sharp, not if you have a little bit of spice because you seasoned your steak. That's not called sharp.
Well, sharp we know is like onion, garlic, ginger, or something very spicy.
Say again?
Sharp is onions, ginger, garlic, or something very spicy.
The other thing is like this. If you have a non-kosher pot, right, and then you cooked something very spicy in it, you have to count the 24-hour count also resets because it reinvigorated the flavor.
Right.
Besides the fact that this food is no kosher because it reinvigorated the flavor, making it positive, you now have to count 24 hours from this time because it reinvigorated the flavor.
But why do we say that spicy? Hold on. Why do we say that spicy reinvigorates flavor? I understand sharpness does, but spicy usually like.
I meant sharp. Sorry, I meant sharp.
Sharp, not spicy.
But actually, the truth is, he says pilpulin.
Spicy is sharp.
Spicy is probably
It's sharp, but it's something that completely takes over a flavor. There's no mixture of flavors. No, how does it extract? It overpowers.
Okay, here it says pilpulin, which is black pepper. How do you translate it, right? Spice or black pepper? How do you translate it?
Pepper.
It says peppers. Hot peppers into a.
Hot peppers are spicy, yeah.
Hot peppers, not pilpulin, not as in black pepper.
I'm just saying spices.
Pul is maybe okay. So it's hot pepper, so it's sharp. Maybe you're right. Not like a spicy. It's sharp. Okay. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's sharp rather than spicy.
What's the difference between spicy and sharp?
Spicy is a spicy steak. Sharp is jalapeno dip. Yeah?
Okay, it says pilpulin, so how do you say
They translate it in English. They translate it as peppers.
Hot peppers. It says.
Hot peppers.
spicy.
Although I translate it as black pepper, but it's not the same thing. Black pepper is not the same thing as hot pepper.
No, very different.
Not the same thing. They're different. So maybe taka. Okay.
That hot
Zion.
pepper is
Sorry?
hot pepper is more powerful than just pepper. Normal pepper.
Because pepper
Yes,
is a
but it's not
spice.
just more powerful. It's of a different type. If you have a very
Spice.
sensitive palate, one's spicy and one's sharp. They're not the same, right? For example, they have like they measure the heat level. There's a word for it.
Yeah.
Schofield's.
Yeah.
Is that applied to spices?
Yeah.
A number
Like
of
how
times.
hot,
No,
how
only
hot
peppers.
are.
Only
It starts
peppers.
with peppers.
It's not. It won't be applied to garlic or
No.
cumin,
No.
right?
No,
So it's
because
not
the difference is one is spicy, like your mouth's burning, and the other one is just like maror, like it's very like
Bitter.
It's bitter. It's
Yeah.
strong. Like garlic is not spicy. It has a strong taste.
It's sharp.
But that sharpness can be compared to eating a jalapeno pepper that's very
Right.
spicy. It's not the
right.
same.
Right. Interesting.
not the
Okay.
same thing.
So maybe taka.
An onion.
Onion is also sharp. It's not spicy.
Onion sharp, not spicy.
It's not going to burn your mouth. It's just going to make it hard to swallow.
It's a very sharp flavor. Yeah. We spoke about this when we
You
spoke
want
about
to say spicy
dover.
doesn't wake
Same
up
thing
the-
with ginger. Have
We
you
did
ever?
speak about this.
Sorry,
I
we spoke
remember.
about it then. We spoke
Yeah.
about dover charif and which
So you
things
want to
count
say
and which things
spicy
don't
does
count.
not wake up
It does.
reawaken the flavor?
These peppers.
I
Only
think it
sharp
does. If it's very.
reawaken the
That's what I'm
flavor?
saying.
So
Even.
sharp, so both of them do both?
I don't know that the halacha makes a distinction.
Do the same
Because
thing?
actually, when we went, you're right. Now you're reminding me. We went through the list. Black pepper was on the list.
Yes.
Black pepper was on the list of that which reinvigorates spice. That reinvigorates flavor.
And I even talked about how the
Even though I
scale.
think you're right.
It's
If
actually
If
talked
you,
about
ta-
the
if you
scale
take
scale.
something
I hear you. I don't
and
know.
you eat it with a lot of onions, you can eat it. If you take something and you put a really spicy stuff on it, you cannot eat it. Like it's gonna like
If you
your
put a
mouth
lot
will
of raw
burn.
onions, it's very and it's un.
It's
and
just
you-
like
if
it's
you
just
put a
like
lot
that.
of raw onions and you didn't temper it with oil and whatever, it's gonna be hard to eat.
People eat raw onions like apples.
Okay, people eat them. That's an aberration. That's not the norm.
I'm just saying it's not spicy. I'm Moroccan. I eat spicy food. I can tell you. There's a difference between marar and spicy. Okay.
This is the bit Joseph speaking here. He's also
Yeah,
Spartan.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, relax. Not Moroccan, but
You can have my
Spartan.
mother's
In any case,
mazbucha.
in any case,
He was not Moroccan,
for
he
our
was Spartan.
purposes, spicy and sharp
I think they're the same.
have the
Yes,
same effect.
correct. When we learned the halachas of davar charif, we did come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
We even went to we even like dabbled with the idea that grapefruit can be considered sharp. Remember, we spoke about that. There was a doubt maybe it's considered sharp too,
It's
because
bitter.
it's sour,
Yeah, sour.
right? Okay. Zion. Kededa. So here again, I want to introduce this, but we spoke about it before. We already mentioned this. This machlekes that we rule stringently. I'm sorry, that you have to wait 24 hours. But there is that view which says that overnight is what makes it livgam, even if it's less than 24 hours. Yeah. So that a machlekes can be applied together with another stringency to equal a heter,
Yes.
which we just saw before.
Yes.
Where did we see what was the case? Where
It
you
was with the
weren't,
two pot,
where you weren't sure which pot it was, but it was overnight. So you
Yeah.
have doubt A, I'm not sure which pot I used, and doubt B, maybe it's anyways considered negative flavor because it's overnight.
Yeah.
All right. So similarly is going to be happening now. And here we're going to throw in the variable of chanan. Okay. So here we go. Kedera, a pot. She balum basa b'chalav, that has absorbed both milk and meat. Okay. Shenis bashal ba b'yachat. It was milk and meat were cooked in the pot together. Oi, or b'zeh chazeh, or it absorbed milk and meat because meat after milk, or the other way around. The kodim she'over alayla. Kodim she'over alayla achas, and before the night was passed. Huchmu b'mayim. You heated what you reboiled water in that pot. So you have a pot that's basa b'chalav, and now you boiled water. So now, chashiva bas yaima, it's considered a day old. You have to wait 24 hours after the water was boiled,
Because it's basa b'chalav.
because basa b'chalav.
So if it's tarufis, it's not that. The water
Sorry?
doesn't count. If it would be something not permitted in the pot, then the water wouldn't count, and you would only count from the time that it was cooked. Because it's basa b'chalav.
Because basa b'chalav, yes.
But
So-
would it be something that's not allowed, not basa b'chalav?
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that.
And it's not
So let's look.
recovered.
You can look in the Taz says. Kivin shon kfar nesar k'teira b'blis basa b'chalav. Nasham ma'im shebis b'toich bas la'es kinevela. Have a kilo b'shua. Oh, it's basa b'chalav. Okay. However, he said this on condition that the night didn't pass. That was his condition. Aval, but just continue the Ramah. Im Avra Laila, if the night passed, so milk and meat were cooked together. Night passed. Now, v'cheinim Avra Laila ben Bishul Basa b'chalav, or meat was cooked at night for dinner, and then milk was cooked in the morning. So it's within 24 hours. So as a rule, we treat that as milk and meat. But it's a milk and meat of a positive flavor, l'chumra, because there's a view which says that because it was overnight, it's negative. So the fact that I'm treating this as milk and meat right now is l'chumra. And therefore, even though I right away cooked water, that water is not going to become nevela. Because the milk and meat it absorbed is a chumra to milk and meat. And to begin with, it's possible that milk and meat, I mentioned this on Sunday, milk and meat, once they become milk and meat and it gives off flavor of something else, it's no different than other yisurim. Because milk and meat becoming levela is only when the two interact with each other, not when after they interact they become something else.
Right,
so it's a double chumrah happening here. A, it's a chumrah that I'm making the water chanan.
Right.
Because it's coming from basar b'chalav. And B, I'm taking the chumrah that overnight is considered positive flavor. And therefore, to stringencies make a leniency. Okay? So dina namahachit, the law here is the same as well, that the 24-hour count only goes from the mixture of milk and meat, not from the water that came afterwards, because the water is not going to get the chanan, considering that either the water was cooked after overnight after the milk and meat, or because it was overnight between the milk and the meat.
I would hold this way?
There are more rules.
Wait,
Wait a
if
second, I
it
believe
was
so.
overnight?
But a lot of things
Very,
are like that about tame and stuff, like things that have to do with overnight. Like it's tame, but then as soon as the
But
night
here it's a
passes,
different thing.
by the
He's
next
talking
day.
about cooking your meat, your cholent, and then in the morning cooking a milk dish in it, and then you cook some water
Okay.
after, and it's okay.
Actually, there is one stringency
Because it
that
went through the night.
there is one stringency since you asked. There's one stringency that we take, not from the Ramah, which is the Shulchan Aruch seems to imply, the Mechaber seems to imply that only if the night passed after the milk and meat were mixed, not the night in between milk and meat.
Meaning, if you had cooked it after the
You cook
nightfall, and
milk and
you
meat,
would,
and
you
the
could
next
do it the
morning,
next morning.
and milk and meat were cooked today, and then the next morning I did water.
But when you say next morning, before mincha,
No, overnight. Yeah, before mincha.
I'm saying after Ma'ariv, it would be the
No,
same
no,
day.
next morning, literally next
Yeah,
morning.
Exactly. Okay.
Specifically overnight. It's specifically overnight. It's next morning.
And
Right?
then,
So the Ramah seems, the Shulchan Aruch is saying dafka once the milk and meat is cooked, and then there was 24 hours, then there was overnight before the water was cooked.
That's a different
The
case.
Ramah adds a new case: milk at night, milk in the afternoon, meat the next day, and then water. That's a new kula which the Shulchan Aruch did not apply.
Right.
And the Shach sides with the Shulchan Aruch and says to be stringent in this case. Okay, just
so
to
wait
point it
from
out.
the water?
So
Stringent means wait from the water.
means wait from the water, because the milk and meat mixed this morning, and the water is
the
cooked
water.
later. Whereas those are two different things. One is milk and meat mixed, and then overnight passed.
Right.
Then there's more room to be lenient and say,
Right.
look, it's according to half the opinions, it's already negative flavor. But if meat was cooked in the afternoon, and the next morning milk was cooked, so the milk and meat interaction happened here.
Happened in
So
the
just
morning.
happened in the morning.
So you-
So to say the next water is negative flavor from that, it's a bigger stringency. But the Ramah still applying that. Sorry, it's a bigger leniency to say that. And the Ramah is applying that leniency considering 12 because overnight passed between the milk and meat. It's a bigger leniency, which again the Shulchan Aruch doesn't state, and the Shach sides of the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, to conclude.
But the whole problem.
Sorry?
Back to what I was saying before. So, but the
We're almost
whole
done, a few minutes.
The whole problem was only in the basar b'chalav. This is only because of basar b'chalav.
Oh, now we add like this. Now, Lafim Ad Kaimalon says that based on what we learn, we hold that in all Yisurim we also say Nachanan. So Dina Nami Ein Le'il Tzim Zadi Beis so the same law would apply. The same law applies to other Yisurim, where if before overnight you cooked water in the non-kosher pot, you got to count 24 hours from that water, because that water became chanan. According to us, that we say chanan by other Yisurim. Follow?
I
Yeah?
follow, but I thought we said the opposite a minute ago.
Because the Shulchan Aruch is never of the view,
Right.
the Mechaber is not of the view that chanan happened by Ashar Yisrael.
Yes.
So the Shulchan Aruch is only going to talk about chapas b'chalav. But Ramah, he says, according to us, that we say Chanan Bashari Yisurim.
Right.
So if you have a non-kosher pot, and then before the next morning you cooked water, then you have to count 24 hours from the water. Okay? But he says, nonetheless, Makam Hefsid, when there's a place of monetary loss, not great loss, any monetary loss, there, you
Also,
can
anything more than water.
be lenient and count 24 hours from the
First time.
from the actual non-kosher, not from the water.
Right.
The shari sort and other things, b'chol inyan, actually, that's not a bishul iser, so long as it's 24 hours from when the non-kosher was cooked. Now, why a little bit of hefsid, not hefsid meruba? Because, as the Shach explains, because when it comes to hefsid meruba, we anyways don't apply chanan by shari surim. Because the chanan by shari surim is a stringency, and the Ramah told us then that if there's a great hefsid, you don't do chanan by shari surim. So over here, it's 2 step removed. First of all, applying chanan by shari surim, plus I'm making 24-hour count later than it was supposed to. So even by a little hefsid, we're going to be lenient. Okay, that covers the laws of Nation Tam Gam. And God willing, next week I think we have like Kuf Dalid, Kuf Hey, Kuf Vav, and Kuf Yus Simonim next week.
The small one.
Not Kuf Hey. Kuf Hey we did already at the beginning, but it's going to be Kuf Dalid, Kuf Vav, Kuf Zayin. They're small like 1-2 halacha dinim. Much of which is not very practical. For example, what happens if you find
A squirrel in
a rat in your wine? That's next week.
That's kind of gross.
It is kind of gross. Okay, have a wonderful day, buddy. Wonderful evening.
Okay.
Yeah.